Hello, everyone. This is Miss Jenkins. We're going to be exploring theme today, a topic that we've talked about all year long in fourth grade. Theme, the search for meaning. Now, let's review what theme is. Theme is a life lesson, meaning, moral, or message about life or human nature that is communicated in books that we read, in literary works. In other words, theme is what the story teaches readers or what the author wants the reader to gain from reading the book. So, a theme is not a word. We have to articulate the theme in a sentence. You don't have to agree with the theme to identify it. These are some example themes: praise the day at sunset, first deserve, then desire. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Some other themes are don't judge a book by its cover, money can't buy love. So, those are themes that are common in literary works. So, let's read. I'm going to read this story and we're going to identify the theme together. Carrie loved her phone and her tablet. She was always looking at one or the other. Her parents would try to talk to her about her life, but she would just ignore them or give them monosyllabic answers like, huh, yes, no, until they left her alone. When she was at school, she'd sneak peeks at her phone under her desk whenever she could get away with it. When she was at parties, she spent more time interacting with the devices in front of her than with the people around her. Even at concerts and sporting events, Carrie seldom removed her eyes from these tiny screens. One day, Carrie was walking home from a friend's house and watching a funny video of people slipping on ice. She began crossing the street just after the light changed. She was so into the video that she did not notice the oncoming traffic. She walked directly into the traffic while laughing at the falling people on her tiny screen and was hit by a bus. Carrie sustained mild injuries, but both of her devices were destroyed. As far as she was concerned, her life was over. So, we've read this book about Carrie and what happened to her as she was living her life and being consumed by the tablets in front of her. So, she spent all of her time looking at her screens and devices. She didn't think about anyone else or doing anything else. And we know that tablets and the phone was something that she really loved. She really loved her tablets and she really loved her phone. And she probably got a lot of pleasure out of those two things. But we see that even though she got pleasure out of them and they probably helped her in a lot of ways, they also hurt her. And so I'm asking myself, what caused the tablet and the phone to hurt her? Well, she spent all of her time focusing on that one thing, and she didn't have any balance in her life. So the thing that she loved and brought her joy also was the source of what happened to her at the end, which was her being hit by a bus because she wasn't paying attention. So her focusing totally on her tablets and not paying attention to anything else caused her to not be aware of her surroundings and caused her to put herself in harm's way. And she got hit by the bus. And even at the end of the story, she got hit by the bus and she felt that her life was over because she didn't have her tablets anymore and they were destroyed. So, what could we say the theme of this story is? So, here are some examples of themes. Practice moderation with all things desirable. So, in the story, Carrie did not practice moderation. Moderation means that you spend a little bit of time on something or that you don't spend all of your time on certain things, that you have balance. So she loved and she desired her phones and her tablets, but she didn't have balance. She didn't focus on other things. Okay, so that seems like that would be a good um, theme because she didn't practice moderation with all things desirable, and we see what happened to her. You can get too much of a good thing. So her tablets and her phone was a good thing, but she got too much of it and it caused her to have the horrible accident. Safety first. So had she been safe, she and paying attention, she would have put the phone away and she would have been paying attention to her surroundings and she wouldn't have gotten hit by a bus. So the explanation is Carrie loves to use her phone, but she needs to balance that desire with the more practical concerns of safety and well-being. So if you notice at the top, these themes do not say anything about Carrie. It is not specific to the story. It's a lesson that we can take out of the story and apply it to other stories, to our own life. But then at the bottom, the explanation as to why we say these could be themes do point to the story. So when you identify themes, you see that they are not clearly stated in the story. Usually themes, the authors do not say, this is the theme of the story. You have to look inside of the story. They're implied. They're under the text. It's not something that is stated. So it's not explicit. It's implied. Themes are bigger than the story. So when you give the theme, you don't talk about the story. You talk about the big theme or the big idea that comes from the story. So we have the small world of the story. We think about the story we just read about Carrie, her small world, her loving tablets and her focusing only on her phone and on nothing else around her. So we take what happened to her and we come out to the big world of the theme and we apply what Carrie learned to, or what happened in the story, to the real world. So themes, once again, themes are about the big picture. When you say what the theme is, you're not going to mention the story until you're explaining why you think that's the theme in the story. So for example, for this story, we wouldn't say Carrie should get off her phone. That is not the theme of the story because that is specific to the small world. We use what we learned in the story and we come out of the story to say what the theme is. So we won't, another theme is not phones can be dangerous. Using the word phone is too specific to the story. We think about the bigger picture. We find real world advice that applies to many situations. So something like safety first, that could be applied to anything. It could be applied to a story about someone who loved to ride their bike all the time and they didn't pay attention to anyone. It has nothing. It could have anything to do with phones. So let's review theme again. Theme is what we learn from a story. Themes must be inferred. So we use what's in our mind already. We use what's in the story, and together we make an inference or we draw a conclusion. And then themes are not limited to story-specific details. They are about the big world. So when we say what the theme of a story is, we don't use that story in our theme. We don't talk about the character. We don't talk about the details when we say what the theme is. We don't do that until we explain why we said that was the theme. So now you're going to practice finding the theme. You're going to click on the next link in this module. You're going to read each story. You're going to write what you think the theme is. And then you're going to write another sentence explaining what happens in the story that leads you to believe that that is the theme. So when you're doing this and you're writing the theme, remember, do not mention the story in your theme. Do not mention the details of the story. You're thinking about a sentence that can be applied to many other stories, to life in the big picture, in the real world. But then when you write your sentence explaining why you say this is the theme, then that is when you're going to, refer to the story and refer to the details and say, the theme of this story is, and then you give the sentence, and then you talk about what happened in the story and how the character learned a lesson. Okay, so remember, click on the link, the next link in the module, read the 3 stories, and then write the theme, and then write the why you think that is the theme. Thank you so much for your attention. This has been Miss Jenkins exploring theme.